and ads. I'm Suman Majety, VP of Product at Stillfront. So Stillfront is a 20 companies organization. So this is based out of Sweden, and I'm based in Hamburg. So my career is roughly 50% in India, 50% I've spent in Europe. So I worked at Gameloft, Knowledge Adventure, RockU, and also at in Europe at BigPoint, Vuga, and Stillfront now. So currently I'm based in Hamburg. So I have roughly managed more than 15 free-to-play games in my career, and the biggest of them is June's Journey. So June's Journey is more than $1 billion in lifetime revenues, and out of $1 billion, 50% was under my supervision. So overall, I have 18 plus years in the industry. So today I'm going to focus on 3 major topics. So one is importance of implementing a hybrid monetization strategy, why it is critical right now in the current market situation, challenges and risks of using a single monetization approach, and using a structured framework in balancing the monetization strategy. So before I start, some context, right? Because this is very important to understand where we currently stand in the market. So the mobile games market has changed significantly in the last few years. It's not the same pre-pandemic. So after Apple has introduced ATT, things have changed drastically. So getting users have become extremely challenging, and it's been less effective in getting the players. The CPIs have also increased as a result, and the CPIs, for example, has gone up by more than 30 to 40% in some markets. There is a lot of saturation in the market, so there are a lot of new games which come up. So every week there are new quality games releasing, and there are these forever games, like big ones. For example, Candy Crush, which has been out there for a decade. So this is still doing great. It's retaining the players. So this is how, this is done usually by using very strong live ops strategies. So players are right now spoiled with a lot of choices. So the moment they see a game where there's a mediocre experience, they quickly drop the game and go to the new one. So right now it's become very important to craft the right monetization strategy, and it's been becoming more important than ever before. So for any successful free-to-play game, there are 3 important aspects. So user acquisition, so this is how you get the right players into the game, with the lowest possible cost, the best possible players, and retention/engagement, so this is the second important thing, and finally the monetization, how you monetize these players. So today my talk is mainly focused on monetization and how to do this properly. So when you talk about monetization, there are 2 major things which come to your mind, and there are 2 major revenue sources basically, so IAP and ads. So there are games which use aggressive IAP. So there are some examples, right? So players are often bombarded with a ton of offers. The games are very expensive, so some players cannot even play properly. So these comments are from some of the mid to big size games. So you can clearly see that players are often frustrated with the amount of IAP or offers that the game has. And there are games which use excessive ads on the other side. So you have games which have ads popping up every minute, every 2 minutes. So this breaks the overall gameplay experience. How many of you have either played or experienced such games? Can you quickly raise your hands? So this is a pretty common problem. Now, let's quickly look into the pros and cons of using a singular approach, right? So there are games which use IP-based approach, so majority of the revenue or majority of the pressure is on the IP. So purely relying on IPs is high risk because you monetize only a small fraction of players of your player base. If implemented right, this can lead to predictable revenue all the time. So you can, when you model revenue, when you forecast, this becomes a very predictable revenue stream. And in general, IP-based approach results in a very clean gameplay because players have an option to pay and play. So this is very clean. And but this approach leaves pretty significant ad revenue on the table. So this is something that you don't monetize on. On the other hand, ads approach. So revenue is heavily influenced by eCPMs and external factors because the revenue is not in your control. So you can only have impressions in your control. All the other factors are outside of your control. So any poor integration of ads, or again, ads is a very unstable topic because it could result in tech issues, it could result in so many other factors which could disrupt gameplay experience. And relying purely on ads also is a problem because it leaves a lot of IP revenue on the table. Now, how to do this properly, right? So the only way to do this properly is to have a refined approach. So that is a hybrid monetization strategy. So a strategy where IP and ads both complement each other rather than working against each other. So it's all about balance. Using a hybrid approach would result in about 20 to 45% increase in revenues. So this is to be taken very seriously when you're developing games. You could ask, what is then formula, right? So what is the success formula? Unfortunately, there is none. There's no universal monetization formula that works for all the games. So even if you look at some of the successful games and try to copy, it might result in a failure because there are a lot of factors that are having a dependency on the right approach. So an approach would then depend on the genre that your game has, the pacing, the mechanics that your game has, the kind of players that you're getting from UAs, all these factors play a part. So when you're designing a monetization approach, it has to be based around players and not on the game. So there's a fundamental shift in the way you think about monetization. Now, I've seen a lot of companies and games struggle with this. So I have developed a structured framework. It's called Scale Framework. So I'm going to introduce this to you. So please use this when you're approaching monetization. Again, this is not a silver bullet to all your monetization troubles. This will definitely get you to a starting point. And then you can iterate on that and optimize your monetization. Okay, so let's talk about scale, right? So there are 5 points. So study player behavior thoroughly, capture what drives engagement, analyze your player segments and pick the right monetization approach, launch the monetization approach, and then enhance the monetization iteratively through ongoing experiments. So these are the 5 points. I'll explain each of them much more in detail with some examples as well. So first one is study player behavior thoroughly. So when I talk about player behavior, right, so it is the session duration, the session frequency, the progression speed of your players. Again, you have to dissect your players, payers, highly engaged players. So you have to look at every segment and look at all these metrics and how players are behaving in the game. And then identify where players actually convert. and what type of purchases the players are making in the games. Also determine which in-game resources and rewards are the players mostly desiring during their gameplay. And use these insights to then identify what are the right rewards and what is the trigger frequency. So this is the output of this step. I'll take a simple example. Again, this is an oversimplified example, just in the best interest of time. So let's take a racing game. So an average player spends about 18 to 20 minutes in the game per day. Roughly does about 3 sessions, and each session has about 6 to 7 minutes time. On the other hand, highly engaged player for the same game spends about 30 to 45 minutes, 5 sessions, and spends about 6 to 9 minutes a day. So looking at the player behavior now, so player typically purchases blueprints, unlocks upgrades, gets tokens, credits, and fuel refills. In terms of cosmetics, it is decals or car colors. Now, based on this, how you understand, again, looking at all these factors, you could then derive reward options as, tokens, credits, fuel refills. Again, just a rule of thumb, it's best to use consumables, not durables, for this. Trigger frequency, so 2 to 3 rewarded ad placements per session. Again, as a rule of thumb, it's important to use 1 ad placements per about 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay. So this is a golden factor. Again, this is after me doing a lot of experiments and figuring out, okay, this is the ideal ratio that you can have. The second point is about capture what drives engagement. Often I see a lot of experienced PMs also getting confused with this. So some PMs feel, okay, retention is engagement. It is not the case. Both are very different. I can give you an example. So if a player, let's say, comes into the game, collects a daily login bonus for 30 days in a month, you call the player highly retained, not highly engaged, right? And at the same time, you could have a player, let's say, logs in for a week in a month, 7 days a month, but spends 30 to 45 minutes in each of the session. You call this player highly engaged, right? Even with relatively lower retention. So identify mechanics where players perform meaningful interaction. So all these are termed to be engagement factors. Understand what are the pinch points in the economy, both from an IAP side and also a game balancing side. And understand which in-game events and meta layers are actually working, and what is driving players and what are they interacting with. Use all of these insights to determine the ideal placement. Whether this is an offer or whether this is an ad placement, this analysis would give you the result. Again, going back to the racing game example. So players mostly engage in daily races, car upgrades, tournaments, and in-game events. So in terms of ad placement, you could determine that, okay, after completing a race, you can place an ad placement, and opening a reward chest could be one option, and when player run out of fuel, then this could be another option. The third point is about analyzing player segments and picking the right monetization approach. So when you're talking about player segments, so the easiest way to do this is using spends as one vector and player engagement as another vector. And if you map all your players in these 2 dimensions, you would end up with a quadrant, right? So a 4 quadrant. So one is high spenders, low engagement, low spenders with low engagement, and high spenders with high engagement, and at the same time, low spenders with high engagement, right? So you have 4 types of players. Again, I'm simplifying this, So if you have, if your studio has sophisticated analytics, you could go, many steps deeper into this. You could have, mid pairs, or you could have dynamic segmentation as well, where it could be a lot more clusters. So for this example, I'll take just the 4. So I'll focus on the low spenders and low engagement. So this is a set of players. Again, very important to remember that exclude new players from this equation completely. Because new players, when they come into the game, they require some time to mature. Right? You will not understand what their potential is on day 0 or day 1. So typically it takes, for casual games, it could be until day 7. You have to leave them to understand what is the monetization potential, what is the retention potential, what is the engagement potential. For 4X or for action RPGs, it could be a lot sooner. So you could determine this in maybe day 1, day 3, you would understand easily. So yeah, so typically for casual games, it's until day 7. Focus on boosting engagement before optimizing monetization for this segment of players. Because the major issue for this segment is the engagement itself, not monetization. So you could focus on introducing high-value, progression-linked IPs for this segment. And this is to drive interest and conversion, right? Again, it's a very low potential that this could work, but this is something that you could do on the product side. On the ad strategy, apply a light mechanic. This could be a display ad, or it could be a rewarded ad format. Both are non-intrusive, so they don't disrupt the gameplay. But the moment you add something disruptive, like interstitials for this segment, players would quickly churn. Because again, like I said, the market presents a lot of options for these players, and it's easy for them to choose another game. Let's quickly look at low spenders, but again, with players with high engagement. So this is a very interesting segment of players. So leverage proven monetization mechanics. So it could be season pass, or it could be subscriptions, or it could be gifting, social gifting features. So all these correlate really well with their gameplay behavior. And this is where players would get maximum value. So focus on these proven mechanics. So this player segment is also very well suited for rewarded ads, because they have that kind of engagement in the game, and they can really benefit from the value that rewarded ads provide. Offer walls is another avenue that you could leverage. And also the immersive ads. So immersive ads is evolving really well in the last few years. So this is something that you could actively look at. So for long-term non-spenders, again, I'm talking about, let's say you have a game which is 3 years, 5 years in the market. And if there are players from older cohorts who are long-term non-monetizing, you can explore slightly aggressive options like maybe interstitials, but with lower frequency, or even display ads to maximize value from this player segment. So let's look at high spenders, but with low engagement. So this is also a very interesting player segment. So they prioritize convenience always. So this player segment does not typically have a lot of time. Right? So they quickly are ready to spend on whatever the game throws at them. They want to have a really nice experience, and they would just leave the game. They would come back in a later session. So use progression-linked IPs for this segment. So this is to sustain continued interest. Try to offer ad skips. So this is a really good mechanic for these players, because imagine if an ad takes about 30 seconds to a minute. it's a valuable time that the players will not be interested in spending. So use ad skips for these players just to give them a really good premium experience. So avoid increasing ad frequency for these players and avoid at all costs any disruptive formats. So like interstitials. So it's a very high churn risk for these players. So totally avoid using that. Now let's look at the last segment. So high spenders with high engagement. So this is the most valuable segment that you have in your games. So try to deepen IPs for these players. Use all the proven monetization mechanics. It could be exclusive content. It could be VIP pass. It could be premium bundles. So all these really work for these players. Focus on IPs, more on vanity. So this is all prestige-driven IPs. So all this work because they value status, they value prestige, and personalization. So leverage these. Again, this segment is high value. So ad skips is something that they would really benefit from. Again, avoid disruptive ad formats. Interstitials as a strict no for this player segment. Because the moment you throw interstitials, these high value players choose to churn. Let's quickly go back to the racing game example. So it's again oversimplification. So these are rough numbers. So you can see low spenders with low engagement, about 65% of the player base. Low spenders with high engagement, about 25% of the player base. Spenders is about 10%, 5% being with low engagement, 5% being high engagement. So once you analyze this, you can derive a trigger, which is at key moments during the gameplay. So this is after completing a race, like we have derived from the previous steps. Opening a reward chest, or when player runs out of fuel. And offering ad skip options is also a very valid mechanic for these players. Again, this is tailored to mid to high spenders, just to give them the premium gameplay experience. The fourth step is about launching the monetization approach that you have identified. So always try to launch the monetization change that you're doing, whether this is new or this is an improvement as an A/B test. So this will help you track and measure player behavior at every step. And when you launch this, be ready to make the change if necessary in the early phases. So you should be really quick to respond to unwanted behavior. Take into account any potential cannibalization that your new ad strategy or new monetization improvement would bring. And always measure the net uplift. Net uplift is very important. And whether this is in terms of any KPIs that you have or with respect to the revenue, always try to measure the net uplift that you have. So make sure that this is positive, and if it's negative, you have to iterate on the strategy. The final step is enhancing monetization iteratively through ongoing experiments. This is always very important. I often see studios or teams ignoring this step, being content with whatever has been rolled out. They move to the next topic. But this step is absolutely important because this is where you derive incremental uplift. So continuously refine the monetization through iterative testing and optimization. Again, design strategies that address all the player segments in your game and try to monetize the entire player base. So this is this is what is at stake. and try to expand beyond the traditional IAP or the ad model, and explore options like subscriptions, for example, which is slightly deviating from the normal standard, and also explore offer walls, which is another valuable tool set. So key takeaways from the talk, right? So single revenue models are becoming less effective in today's market. Adopt a hybrid monetization strategy to diversify your revenue streams and try to reach all players of your game, and build monetization around player experience and not the game itself. And try to apply the scale framework that I've just mentioned to achieve a balanced monetization strategy. With that, I open for questions.
Hi. How do you normally try to balance, in IAP and the ad-based rewards? For example, you have an in-app purchase pack which is giving a certain currency, and you have a rewarded ad which is actually handing over the same kind of currency into the same economy. So in case of in-app purchases, the value is, we know it is in certain dollar numbers, but when it comes to rewarded ads, the eCPM that you get out of it going to be quite different, based on the geography and all. So how do you normally come about balancing the economy overall when rewarding for IAP and ads?
Very good question. So the ultimate goal is to maximize value, right? Player value. So LTV is the bottom line always. So when you are approaching this, right, again, it depends on the player segments that you have. So you could use levers like capping the ads for your high value players, because you want to drive these players to make in-app purchases rather than spending time watching ads. So you could tweak the levers, the amount of ads that are available for, let's say, your high value segment versus low value players. So you could tweak around and then achieve balance. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, yes.
Thanks.
What about the games which have one-time payment? Take a AAA title, game has just a one-time payment without any IAPs or without any ads in between. So how would you manage the monetization on that without making the players feel the price is overwhelming or something?
It's a different model altogether. So my talk was more on mobile free-to-play games. But this is an interesting question, right? Because we have a lot of games which are monetizing upfront, right? So this is how you convey the value to the players. So that is one where the players see the perceived value of the game, make the purchase. When they come into the game, they would then experience the full game without making any other purchases. So there are ways to work around this. So for example, you could think about leveraging DLCs and price them accordingly. So this is one approach that you could use. But apart from that, it's a completely different ballgame. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, hi. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Hi. You mentioned that the low spenders and low engagement guys are the majority, right? So
yes.
The idea is to move them towards engagement. Can you share some proven tricks to how to go about increasing that engagement?
So there are many proven strategies. Again, it's all about doing the right live ops, right? So if you layer your events such that players are motivated to come back the next day or do progression. A simple example is daily quests or weekly quests, which layer on top and then which provide good motivation for the players to come back the next day. So this is only one such example. There are many of them. Does that answer your question? Thanks.
Hi, sir. This is Nisha here. Sir, if you start with the small studios, will start with some free-to-play games, right? So where we can start with this monetization? Because we want to learn fast as well as we need to do the monetization as well. So where we can start with this?
So for games which are very new, right? So you will not have a player base to work with. You will not have any proven metrics to work with.
Yeah.
The easiest way is to look at the market, look at where your closest competitor is, and derive benchmarks from the industry. You could think about approaching Play Stores. You can there is valuable data there. They can give you anonymized data from the competition. They can help you on that.
Okay.
So this is how you get the data. Another way is to play those games and try to assume certain things. And once you soft launch, you would then have all the data, right? That's how you can iteratively improve.
Sure. If you want to stick on some analytics or we want to stick on the conversion or something like that, we want to especially focused on some analytics or something, your suggestion.
Sorry, could you please repeat?
If you want to stick on any analytics, some analytics are already defined, right? If we want to stick on some, while we are researching something, we want to stick on some particular analytics. We want to build up something related to this market analysis.
Okay.
We want to do something like that. Any target we want to set up to monetize something after the research of the market, something like that.
Is the question about the benchmarks?
Yeah.
There's a wide research that is available. Again, I really don't know the genre that you're working with, but there's plenty of benchmarks out there that you could derive. Again, it also depends on the market that you are trying to reach.
Okay.
So you have to go that deep.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, sir. We are into casino actually. So thank you so much.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. So my question is say in our game as a strategy, like there are people playing from different geographies.
Yeah.
And revenue coming from ad from one geography will be different, or their behavior to if they are retained or not after watching an ad will be different from another. So how do we account geographies into the experiments that we plan to run?
The only way is to just experiment, right? So if you see a potential risk due to these cultural differences or due to these geo-induced factors, then all you can do is experiment with a very small percentage of test group and then try running ads with a slightly higher frequency, look at how these players behave, and then go take it from there.
Okay, essentially look into what happens to the engagements.
Yes,
Okay,
you have to look at both monetization factors, look at potential cannibalization, look at engagement of these players, and also look at their long-term retention. So there are multiple factors and multiple dimensions that you have to analyze before you take a call on the A/B test.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. Again, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.